That's something, like I said, I can't prove, and probably a lot of people think I'm full of crap, but I have tasted it.
As we said earlier, I don't drink the little baby beers. I like the big man
the
beers.
Kinderbier. That is a good question. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Huh.
He's like, oh, damn, I should have started swearing earlier.
Yeah.
Cody drives an actual branded White Claw van, just hoping that they will sponsor him. And I'm like, but we don't talk about seltzers on this podcast. There is something that I noticed on Dovetail's website that I haven't seen anywhere else.
Ooh.
Welcome to Crafty Brewers Tales Behind Craft Beer, the podcast that will increase your enjoyment of craft beer, or maybe you call it local beer, and more importantly, the people who make it. We have traveled to the North Center neighborhood of Chicago to go from grain to glass with Hagen Dost, co-owner and brewer at Dovetail Brewery. We're going to share the stories that make each brewer unique. I'm beer drinker and hellraiser Brian Noonan, and my opinions are strictly my own. Behind the camera is our executive producer, Cody Goff. Cody, why are you excited that we're here at Dovetail?
I'm excited because you didn't just say like Master Brewer, like that's like a compliment. Like he's literally a certified Master Brewer.
Yes.
Big deal. First time on the show. Plus, this episode, literally all of the brewery science. So how does this brewery do open fermentation for everything? We'll find out about that. What are the ins and outs of a cool ship? I'm not talking about the USS Enterprise D. I mean a different kind of cool ship. Decoction, that's a thing.
Ooh,
Lauter
Decoction
brand,
comes
that's
back.
a thing. Other stuff you've probably never heard of. And as a bonus, the skill every young brewer should cultivate. Pay attention, young brewers.
If you are looking for Dovetail Brewery, then you got to get to 1800 Belle Plaine Avenue in Chicago, dovetailbrewery.com. And now we must say hello to the man, Hagen Dost. Hagen, it is a real honor to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
It is, Dovetail is, you talk about beer in Chicago and your name always comes up. You and your partner, Bill, who started Dovetail together. You guys are known for the really traditional styles and the old world European way of brewing, because as your slogan says, you brew like monks without the vows.
Minus the vows.
Minus
exactly.
the vows. So what is it about this style, and what sets Dovetail's process and your beers apart from people who don't go with that really traditional method?
Well, one of the first things that I did when I was getting into beer was I took a sensory analysis class.
What is that?
And that is where you learn how to say taste beer and taste all the elements of beer rather than just purely drinking the beer.
Okay.
And you learn how to describe what it is that you taste.
Oh wow! All right.
And one of the things you learn is that you learn that you analyze beer through appearance, aroma, flavor, mouthfeel, aftertaste. Right.
Okay.
So in doing that, I would do homework whenever I drank beers, and I would write down all of these qualities of the beers that I was drinking.
What kind of beers were you drinking at that point?
I was drinking a lot of imports. I kind of like grew up drinking imports. Let's say. So I grew up here in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You might notice my name is not a typical American name. Well, I always say I'm made in America.
There you go.
With German parts.
Perfect.
My parents are literally off the boat.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up drinking a lot of
Was that
German,
because of your parents that the German beers were in the house as opposed to
yes,
mass produced stuff?
Exactly. And they were in the house, and then this used to be a pretty German neighborhood.
Yeah.
And this is where we went out to eat and all that. And I think I started hanging out at the Hütten Bar when I was 12 because on a Saturday.
Why not?
Right. Saturday afternoon, my dad would meet one or two of my uncles at there, and my sister and I would be in tow, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
In the kind of in the German community.
You just go to the tavern with your dad.
That's it.
So you just, after drinking all this beer, you're taking this sensory class.
So I'm taking the sensory class. I'm taking the notes, and after the Century class, I started studying to be a certified master brewer through Siebel and Daemons, the World Brewing Academy.
Yeah.
And that's actually where Bill and I met. We're both from here,
right?
But we met over there in Munich. But as I had there as I went along, and as I say had more opportunity to travel to Europe, my favorite breweries ended up being these like kind of small family run breweries. Like on the lager side, it was and Hefeweizen side, it was like the breweries of Franconia and Bavaria, and on the say on the lambic side, I love all the small lambic breweries. So around the time that I took that class, I was drinking those beers as well, and I was like fascinated by these beers because they were just, first time I went to Franconia, I went to Bamberg and tasted like Marsbräu. I was like, geez, I feel like I've never tasted beer before.
Is that right?
It was so different.
What was it about it that made it so different?
It was a different kind of malty aroma. Okay. It was an easiness to drink, like the body on the palate, and the maltiness and the flavor were just so much, and the bitterness they were so in balance. Okay. And fresh. Like no matter what, when you're drinking, not all, because these days some breweries are doing a better job shipping, but when you're drinking most European lagers that come over here have just a touch of cardboard to them.
And what in the process?
Somewhere between a touch to a lot.
Is that because the fermenting changes? What changes?
That is that's really just aging and staling. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's a development of a chemical called trans-2-nonenal that if you ever take like cardboard and wet it, and chew it a little
cardboard.
Bit. Homework.
We're gonna do
homework for everybody.
We're gonna eat an empty case from Dovetail.
That doesn't sound delicious. Cardboard doesn't sound. I don't know. Do we like cardboard?
No, it means the beer's getting stale. No, we want fresh beer.
Yep. So it's the experience of this fresh beer and everything. Yeah. And it's just really nice balance, and like every beer designed. I think all the German beers are usually designed to drink two or three, or have another. Okay, like as they say.
And what is the time length for that? The shelf life for those, because they want to drink them fresh. Do they brew in smaller batches? How do they ensure that?
The small breweries, their shelf life is probably between like 60 and 120 days for a lower ABV beer.
Okay.
Like our core beers are 120 days.
Okay. We got to drink them fast.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you're over there.
That's right. So I'm encountering all these different breweries, and then eventually, I'm going through beer school, right?
Right.
I'm still traveling to breweries, and I'm, sometimes I talk to brewers or whatever, and I find the methods that they use, and I see there's some common denominators here between all the favorite breweries and things like old school mashing regimes like decoctions and step mashes, things like open fermentation, things like horizontal lagering, and then the most surprising thing eventually was cool shipping of lagers. And there's cool shipping everybody thinks of cool shipping from the Belgians, but there are a lot of little, not a lot. There's some, but I'll call it a bunch. There's a bunch of little German breweries that still use cool ships in their process. And then,
and that's one of the things we're going to talk about later. So Cody sometimes goes, ask about the cool ships. It's on the list because I had never heard of this before.
Yeah. So we're going through beer school.
Yeah.
And the deeper we get into it, each of us independently, we're like, oh, well, there's actually scientific basis to all of these methods.
Okay.
That are in common between these breweries that we loved. Like after we met each other, one of the first things we talked about was like having a brewery with a coolship, and he was the first person who I ever met that I'm pointing at his office.
The ghost of Bill
over there, yeah, pointing at his office. He was one of the first. He was the first person I ever met who didn't think it was just a dumb idea.
Okay.
To have a brewery with a coolship.
Well, that's something that you guys were the first ones in Chicago to have a coolship, correct?
I think it was us, and somewhere around the same time was Weiner has a coolship too.
Oh, okay. But
we I don't know if they put all their beers through the coolship. We put every single beer that we make through the.
Let me ask you one question about beer school in Germany before we get into the coolship and more of the science. When you're studying in Germany, as you said, to be a master brewer,
yes,
is the curriculum different or more stringent than, say, brewers who are good brewers but they went to school here in the States? What's the difference in the programs?
I can't speak to the programs in the States, but I can tell you what that Siebel Duman's like WBA program is, and it's basically gradually getting you deeper and deeper knowledge. On one hand, technical knowledge,
okay,
and then on the other hand, hands-on, hands-on knowledge, or hands-on experience, and because it takes place in Germany, there's naturally kind of a lager and lager and German ale focus on their examples. All of the information is applicable to any kind of brewing.
Okay.
I think I don't know. My guess is it would be a little bit different, say at UC Davis. At UC Davis is it's probably. And they have an English focus. I don't know.
They have different purity laws and everything over in Germany for their beers.
They do. They have the Reinheitsgebot.
And what is that?
So the Reinheitsgebot was a law from 1516 that specified the ingredients that could be used in beer. So it's considered the first like food purity law.
Oh, okay.
Right. So back then the only ingredients allowed were water, malt, and hops, because nobody knew about yeast at that time. These days, it's water, malt, hops, and yeast. Yeah.
Wow. So
in Germany.
And is that for the beer, even any beer that's produced over there?
And so actually, the original Reinheitsgebot was water, barley malt, and hops.
Okay.
Because it was really what it was. Well, first of all, it was like a purity law to keep, like, say, poisonous mushrooms out of your beer.
Okay.
And
makes sense.
And other things. But it was also a way to make sure that the wheat didn't get malted and used in Hefeweizen.
Oh,
because wheat makes great bread, but it also makes delicious beer. So the nobles at the time were afraid that in times of famine, all the wheat would be liquid and
would be able to eat.
Right.
All right. So you meet Bill there, and it's Bill Wesselink, we should say, for the record.
Yes.
He's your partner here.
He's
at
my
Dovetail,
business partner,
and you guys are both master brewers.
Yep, we are certified master brewers.
What does that mean? Certified master
brewer.
That
means we are certified through the World Brewing Academy.
Okay.
So that's that's the cooperative program between the Siebel Institute here in Chicago, oldest brewing school in America,
right,
and the Duman's Academy just outside of Munich.
Okay.
One of, I think, 3 brewing schools in Germany.
Now, do you get to wear a special shirt or pin when you go around other brewers to tell them?
Believe it or not, I have a pin.
Do you? Very nice. Well, you should. If you're a certified master brewer, you should have something to wear.
I have 2 pins from them. I've got my silver one when I completed the Brewers program, and then I've got my gold one from Master Brewers.
Very nice. See, I'd be wearing that every day.
But well, I don't want to screw it up. You know?
Oh, that's true too.
But the story they told us was that if you're in Germany and you're wearing it, because it's a diamond's pin.
Okay.
So if you're in Germany and you're wearing it, and you're at a bar and you run into somebody else with the pin. Whoever sees the other one first has to buy the round.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that thing. Yeah. All right, let's focus on some of this science because again, you guys are known for classic styles, classic European brewing methods.
Yep.
Let's get to the cold table or the cold. What is it? Coolship.
The Coolship.
The Coolship. Yep. So what is a Coolship? What does it do? And why is it so rare?
What the heck is a coolship? It's a good question. A coolship is a big, flat, shallow pan. Okay. In our case, it's made of stainless steel. It is a receiver for the wort that has just been boiled.
Okay. In
the brew house. It receives the wort and the hops from the boil kettle. Takes about 30 minutes to pump over.
All right.
From the brew house to the Coolship.
And then how big for 10 yards?
Our
5 yards?
Our Coolship is 101 by 202 inches.
Wow. Okay.
So big.
Pretty
it's like
big.
101 inches is the biggest load you can get on a semi.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
In the U.S. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So now it's in the tank. It's getting pumped onto the Coolship.
Gets pumped into the Coolship. So as it pumps over, there's all kinds of steam. It's in a separate room, by the way, in the brewery. And when as we're pumping over, we have the windows in the room open.
Okay.
And we have a fan in the ceiling that pulls air out. So we're pulling cool air in. Okay. And we're
getting the
pushing
warm air
out. Okay. So pumping over, you're getting all kinds of steam. In February, you and I would have a hard time seeing each other even at this distance.
Yeah.
And it gets like a beautiful malty hoppy steam room in there.
Oh wow. It's a nice sauna. You should charge extra.
It's fantastic. We've talked about it for years. Putting cedar benches.
Yeah, exactly. That would be great.
Yeah. So what does it do?
Yes.
The first thing it does is it does the first stage of cooling of the wort. Okay. So it cools the wort from boiling to scalding. Okay. Temperature wise, I'm going to use Celsius.
Yeah.
100 Celsius to 75 Celsius.
Okay.
All right. Second thing it does is it separates the hot trub, mostly hops, but also coagulated proteins. So they drop that short distance to the bottom of the Coolship.
Okay.
Third thing it does is in the steam that's coming off of it, any residual precursor to DMS, dimethyl sulfide,
which is what for the layman?
Cream corn aroma.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, it's not anything you want in your finished beer.
All right.
Unless you're Rolling Rock.
Like it. Yeah.
Rolling Rock is known
for their corn.
For having cream. It's part of the profile.
Yeah.
I haven't had Rolling Rock in decades.
I was going to say it's been a long time for me.
I don't know if it's still right. When I had a couple bucks in my pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
we're cooling down. The solids are dropping.
The solids are dropping. The steam is coming off. It's pulling off this highly volatile, like the last remnants of the precursor to this DMS that the yeast would take and metabolize it into this cream corn aroma that you never get out of the finished beer. And then there's a final thing that it does. Those things that I just went through, that's science.
Yeah.
You can that's provable.
Sure.
It's
Yes.
fact.
It's true. Yes. We
Even
know the
in
temperature
these
dropped.
times, it's fact.
Well, I'm going to ask a couple other brewers just to double check and do my own research, Hagen. But
Do your own research.
I'll do my own research, but I'll trust you for now because you're a guest. All right. So we've proven that the temperature has dropped. We've proven that the
Yep.
hops and the remnants of proteins have been separated.
Yes.
We've seen the steam with our own eyes.
Yes.
Now, what happens that it sounds like it's not science, it's magic.
The last component is kind of magic, and it's like the magic of beer. So we believe that wort going through that rest in a cool ship versus any other way to do it results in a beer that is somehow very harmonious. Like all of the elements of the beer are somehow better tied together, and that's something, like I said, I can't prove, and probably a lot of people think I'm full of crap, but I have tasted it. And this is why I did a sensory class as my first step into the brewing world, because I wanted to be able to really dial in my senses, and there were a couple breweries that I went to, and I was like, whoa, there's something going on in that is magical in this beer, and it like sets it just a step above. And
is the Coolship a common in the German and European breweries? No, it's not common over there either.
No, but there are some breweries that still use them.
Okay,
probably the best known one would be Uriga.
I'm not familiar.
Uriga is the alt beer brewery. They make that Sticke Alt in the
okay,
in the flip top bottle. Yeah.
Right.
They use one. They use something called a Berieselungskühler too, which is a whole nother thing.
Listen,
we ran out of money before we could put one in.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, you did not run out of money for a lauter grant. Am I saying that incorrectly?
This is correct.
That is correct?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to learn what that is. We're going to learn where you found it and how it got back here to Chicago. When we come back, we've got Hagen Dost here. He is the co-owner and master brewer here at Dovetail Brewing. When we come back, we're going to talk about one of Dovetail's fantastic beers, and we're going to learn more science because I will say, you are only the second person we've talked to who has used the term decoction. We were very excited when we learned about it the first time, and now we're excited to learn about the Coolship.
Is the other one a Chicago brewer?
It is.
I think I know who it is.
I think you know, too. He's also a Bond villain. So we'll be back in a minute. It's Crafty Brewers.
Hey, Cody here from my editing booth with a quick note before we get to the beer. Please take our listener survey to help us make our show better at craftybrewerspod.com/survey. You can also find a link to the survey in the description of this episode that you're watching or listening to right now. Just look at your podcast app or YouTube page and scroll down to the description of the episode. I want to give a shout out to our friends Rob, Trevor, and Gina for taking the survey. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And it just takes a couple minutes, and you'll get a shout out for helping us out, and you'll help us shape how the show looks and sounds. Again, that's craftybrewerspod.com/survey. And if you're hearing this, then it's still up. Thanks. And we've got some beer to get to now, so enjoy.
We are back at Dovetail Brewing in the North Center neighborhood of Chicago. Dovetail Brewery is at 1800 Belle Plaine Avenue. And this man is, I don't mean to blow smoke, a legend in Chicago. You and Bill have a reputation. Plus, you have the pin to prove you are a master brewer.
Two pins.
You've got two pins. Two pins. I only count the gold one because that's the top tier. You know, so, not anybody can get a silver pin, but the silver pin, you know, this is Hagen Dost. He's the man we're talking to today. Hagen, I hope it's all right. Cody sometimes bugs me. He wants to ask you a question.
The Cody question corner.
Yes, Cody's question corner. Let's go into Cody's question corner. Hi, Cody. What's your question?
I am honored that a master brewer has now branded a Cody's question corner segment.
What is your question
This is great.
for Hagen today?
Is there a graphic up here now?
He'll put, he's putting one in now in
Yeah.
editing. He's like, and I'll go, what's the new graphic? Well, Hagen had a really good idea. And so I just decided I needed a little of my own branding on
It'll
the show.
start with full screen, then there'll be a jingle. I'll commission somebody to play saxophone.
His face just exploding out of a beer glass.
Like a Batman show or something. Well, during the break, we had a little conversation about our previous conversation. You mentioned that it was important to you to talk about that sensory part of your training and how you kind of started with that, and then you think that's important for like young brewers. And I thought that was really interesting. Can you talk more about like what can young brewers do that's similar to that if they're not going for like a master brewing, Yeah,
it's important for young brewers, for home brewers too, for anybody involved, because the most sensitive instrument that you have are your taste buds and your smell, and it's also the cheapest instrument that you have, and there's a lot you can do with those instruments, and when you tune them, you can really learn a lot, and you can learn a lot about what you're drinking too, and to really gain some insight into what that brewer might have done, like the choices that brewer made. And then maybe if you meet the brewer, you get to have a conversation. You talk about what you noticed and see if they were trying to pull that those things out that you noticed in the beer.
And I don't mean for this to sound flippant, but is it a way kind of like meditation almost, like the practice of being aware and
That's true. Yeah, I didn't thought of it that way, but yeah.
My wife meditates, so
Yeah.
she's always trying to get me to do it, and I know that I would be a better person. So it sounds like brewers would be better brewers if they also spend some time with themselves and their senses.
Yeah, stay off the phone and just
and actually-
and just like be in the moment with the beer that you have.
I'm going to text that to her right now.
Yeah.
Do it. Take care of it.
Boom.
When you started this class, was there one aspect that came easier to you than others? Was it the smell? Was it the taste? Was it the aftertaste?
It was the interesting thing then was the being able to pick up diacetyl,
And
which is it's the aroma of buttered popcorn,
Oh, okay.
and which is a fermentation flaw.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Sometimes it's an indicator of, say, a spoiling agent
Wow, okay.
in the beer, but most often it's a fermentation.
And that's
flaw.
an aroma.
That's an aroma.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a mouthfeel too. Like it's a certain slickness on the tongue that you kind of have to get dialed into.
And if
we look for that every day here at the brewery.
Sure.
We, our lead cellar person, Matt, he comes around with tank samples every day, and he's got the panel of people that he brings samples to, and we judge whether that diacetyl is still there or okay.
For all the people who think, oh, brewing beer must be pretty easy. I did it in the kitchen last week. Not so much. Just in case we missed it before, how long was that sensory class to get you dialed in the way you were?
The sensory class was the original one that I had was 2 days.
Oh, okay.
And that was at Siebel. But then going through the Master Brewers certification, you continue that.
Okay, so it's an ongoing,
on a weekly basis, and it's one of those things that you have to continue. You have to keep yourself.
How long do you think it took? Not that it sounds like it's a continuous process your whole life, but how long did it take you to get to the point where you felt confident that, yeah, I can pick up that buttered popcorn aroma and taste, and I can figure this out pretty well?
That was well into the, so it took me 5 years to get through brewing school because I had a job and a family and
sure, yes, yeah,
and had to turn the ship slowly. So
there you go.
I only did it a few weeks at a time. So it took me quite a while into that of repetition.
But as you said, you were always doing homework every time you drank a beer.
Every time I drank a beer.
Doesn't matter if you're in class or not.
Exactly.
All right. What have we decided to showcase here?
So what we have here is our wet Hopfenlager.
Wet Hopfenlager?
Hopfenlager.
Hopfenlager.
It's what we're calling.
I don't know why I get so loud when I do a German accent. It's like I must yell it at an arena. Hopfenlager.
It's a lot. It can be a very loud language, especially when you're drinking.
Exactly.
So it is a wet hopped double decoction lager that has Vienna and Pilsner malt.
It's a little hazy.
Yep, it's a little bit hazy. It's technically a Keller beer, but all of our beers are Keller beers.
What is that?
They're all unfiltered and unfined.
Okay.
So this haze probably comes a little bit from the heavy hopping that we did in the Coolship.
And so the extra hops, the wet hops they come in after the Coolship or in the Coolship?
These came in the Coolship.
In the Coolship.
It's actually the kind of another thing that we use the Coolship for. Now we'll throw hops in just to pull out aromas. So these are cashmere. This is one of this year, 2024, was the first year where we produced a couple of beers where we didn't use any European hops at all.
And you definitely get the hop flavor, but it doesn't have that hop bitterness that you get in some other
bite.
Some other beer.
What is this hitting?
It's very subtle.
What is this hitting the nose here? Because it smells delicious.
That's a lot of that is the green of the hops. So these hops this beer was brewed within 24 hours of picking the hops in Michigan. In Michigan.
And for this, you said the hops go in on the Coolship. Mm-hmm. And when you say wet hops, does that mean you just threw them in wet, or are they wet before?
Whole cones, meaning they haven't been dried.
Okay.
So hops are a cone flower, right? And usually they go through a drying process.
Right.
And these days, most hops, once they're dried, they get pelletized.
Yes.
And then sealed in foil in like nitrogen.
Okay.
So that they'll keep.
Right.
So these hops are just straight off of the.
Oh wow! Okay.
Straight off of picked off of the vine, and they're still moist.
And when you put them in on the Coolship, is it the same time period, or does it have to stay on the Coolship a little longer or shorter because you've added the hops?
It's actually the same. It's the same time period. We had this. We laid a good amount of them down in the Coolship before pump over. So as we pumped over, we extracted right when we were pumping over, and then we let the temperature drop a little bit and added the rest.
Nice.
So the benefit of that is we have it's very hard for us with our setup right now to dry hop.
Okay.
It's a way of I guess it's kind of analogous to what people call what is it, whirlpool hopping.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard that term before.
So that would be adding. Most of the time, hops are separated in a whirlpool.
Okay.
In modern breweries, we use the Coolship.
Okay.
So these days, or what we do is we just add at two different times in order to not pull out as much bitterness, but to pull out just the aroma.
Okay. So, well, it's delicious. And double decoction. Double decoction. Just a quick reminder for people who may not have seen our episode with Goldfinger, which you should go back because Goldfinger, we talked about decoction for the first time. Real quick, what is decoction?
Decoction. So let's step back one step,
okay,
and then we'll come back forward.
Perfect.
So all beer is brewed in this way. You start with a source of starch, which is malt. You grind it, you mix it with hot water. That hot water and malt mixture is called a mash.
Okay.
that in that mash, the starches get converted to sugars by enzymes that are present in the malt. The long chain starches get cut down into sugars. You separate the sweet liquid from the spent grain. You boil that wort with hops to add bitterness, aroma, antibacterial qualities. Cool it, add yeast. A few weeks later, you get beer.
Perfect.
That's all beer.
That's your basic beer recipe.
That's your basic beer recipe. Now the mash, where the grist, the ground malt, and the hot water come together. You can do that in different ways. You can do it at a single temperature, which is called a single infusion.
Okay.
You can do it at multiple temperature steps by raising the temperature of the mash, usually through steam jackets on what's called your mash tun.
Okay.
It's basically a big fancy pot that has steam jackets on it.
Right.
Or you can take it through different temperature steps in another way, which would be decoction.
Okay.
There's another thing called step infusion, but we're not going to talk about
Okay. That's
All right.
that's
I
for
want
the
to hear
advanced
about
class.
step infusion. What's step infusion?
It's a couple of, you add the hot water a couple of different times
Okay.
and you bring up the temperature.
Well, that wasn't too complicated.
We love when we're learning science about the beer, because it's fun to drink it, but it's even more fun to know what went into making it. So when
So a decoction
Yes.
is when you start at a lower temperature, your mash is at a lower temperature. It's like a thin oatmeal at this point.
Okay.
You take about 30% of that mash out to another vessel. You heat it till it's boiling. You boil it for a short amount of time, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever you feel like. And you bring that decoction back over, that boiled decoction back over to the mash, and that raises the temperature of the mash that you left behind.
Okay.
So you go through it that way. But the question is why?
Yes.
Why do it that way if you
And why
if
do
you
it
can,
twice?
And why do it twice? Exactly.
I have so many
So
questions.
doing it twice means you would go through multiple temperature steps.
Okay.
Right. But it's a big question. Why?
Okay. Why?
So we have in our brew house, we have a kettle where we do this decoction, and that's also where we boil the wort.
Okay.
And our kettle is what's called direct fire. So we blow a huge gas flame into the bottom of that kettle into a firebox, and we boil that mash.
Okay.
And that gas flame gives you the same effect as caramelizing onions on a gas stove.
Oh, okay.
So those are the browning that you get. That's called a Maillard reaction. So it does the same thing for a mash that browning does for grilled onions.
So you're getting a different flavor profile out of that mash.
You get that, you get that nice caramelized flavor, and you get a little bit of it when you have a direct fire kettle. So that's the first reason you do it. Flavor. There's some other reasons that you do it. The first reason is really raise the temperature of the mash, right? The second reason is Maillard reactions, caramelization, a deepening of the color as well is what you'll get. So you can you have a malt that's very pale. Like if you don't use a decoction, it might come out straw yellow. Oh, okay. But if you use a decoction of a good amount of time, 15, 20 minutes.
You like this golden.
This actually it'll get more golden, but this one this comes from adding a little bit of Vienna malt to the mash.
Wow.
But a little bit of color, a little bit of pre-boiling off of the precursors to DMS.
Okay.
That I mentioned earlier, that's another benefit of it.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. All right, we're going to continue with science.
Oh wait.
Oh yes.
You asked why do it twice?
Yes, why do it twice?
So it's also like sometimes we do it 3 times.
You guys got nothing else to do?
Got nothing else to do that day.
All right.
Right. No, it's a long day.
Decoction
it's a long day. I always say it's like a throttle on on maltiness. So if you want to hold back on the maltiness, do a step mash.
Okay.
You want a little bit of maltiness, do a single decoction. You want more, do a double. You want a really good amount of maltiness and body. You're also increasing your body every time you do it.
What one of your beers would be triple decocted?
Our Pilsner, our Czech style Pilsner.
Czech style Pilsner.
Yep. Okay. So our Helles is a single decoction. The Kolsch is a double decoction.
Okay.
The Hefeweizen is a double decoction with a ferulic acid rest.
Okay.
And the Vienna is a double decoction.
Wow. All right.
So
it's now, all right. I'm getting confused, but in a great way.
It's all right.
It's in a good way because now I want to shift to this lauter grant that I talked about earlier. One, I don't know what that is, and I'm sure a lot of people watching or listening don't know what that is either. So, what is it, and what is the story behind Dovetail's lauter grant? Because you didn't pick this up over at Best Buy.
We did not. So we have a lauter grant in our tap room.
Okay,
and it's not functional. We don't use it for brewing. But a lauter grant, if you've ever been to the Dovetail tap room, you walk in and you see this copper thing behind the bar with these gooseneck or swan neck like faucets on them. So a lauter grant in the old days was the device that was used to separate the spent grain and the sweet wort. And in the old days, that was all through gravity.
Oh,
so if you had a brew house, you'd have your brew kettle down here, and you'd have your lauter tun up here, and the lauter tun was where you were doing that separation, and you would open up a series of valves on this. In this lauter grant,
okay,
and you would flow out from the lauter grant or from the lauter tun through the lauter grant into the kettle, and the lauter tun has a false bottom on it.
Okay,
so it's like a graded floor that keeps the grain back, and lets the liquid flow through.
Okay, and then what's the purpose of the lauter grant? Does it serve a purpose other than putting the liquid in the kettle?
It lets you control the speed at which the liquid comes through.
And why is that important?
And it also lets you control the relative speed of the different faucets, because each faucet is connected to one drain. And what you want is you don't want to pull everything from one side and leave your sugars over on the other side.
Oh, okay. So the tank has different.
So the tun has say 8. A really huge one. The tun might have 20 different drains.
Okay.
And then you want each one of those running at the same speed.
In
the old days, the brewer would run along or not run, but would go up and down the lauter grant and set the speed at every.
So you're getting a more even
faucet.
mix in the kettle.
Yep.
Oh,
just a really elegant, simple way to separate your.
And it's another reason when people come here, you can learn. Just look around and you're going to pick up some things that you might not pick up somewhere else.
Yep. And I wish we would have had one of those.
Yeah. Would you have wanted to be running up and down?
I wish we would have. I mean, I think it's an elegant system.
Is it another way, like you said, where you can like the magic kind of aspect when you talked about the Coolship? There's that fourth step is the magic. Is that mix? Being able to get that mix coming out of the tun just right, is that magic?
I don't know.
All right.
That step I think probably has less relevance to the final beer.
Okay, it's just
why we weren't like,
we were too worried about that one.
We didn't feel like we had to be more Catholic than the Pope on that. So, but the interesting thing is where we found it. So we found it. We found it on a barn floor in Germany, and it wasn't just any barn
I was
floor.
had they been? Was there a brewery there?
There are these guys that deal in used brewing equipment.
Oh, okay.
that I met when I was finishing that Master Brewer certification, and they deal in used brewing equipment. They're also consultants, brewing consultants. So I sat down with them. I was like, "Hey, here's how Dovetail is going to brew. You know, all these steps. If you find any equipment, used equipment of a certain size in these steps, we'll be open to buying it." And they about 9 months later, they sent us an email, and they're like, "Hey, we've got these open fermenters that you might be interested in."
Okay.
And I went over to Germany and looked at them, and I met with Lothar, the gentleman who owns that firm. Great guy.
There's a German name for
he
you.
looks like a Lothar too, whatever that means to you.
I don't know, but I'll picture a Lothar in my head.
Lothar and Norbert, his son, run the firm. Yeah,
Lothar and Norbert.
Yep. And Lothar was like, "Hey, if you really are interested in used equipment, you should come see our storage facility." So we jumped in his BMW and we went through the hills in Bavaria and drove into this small town. Turns out that's where Lothar grew up.
Okay.
Walked through Lothar's childhood home, and in the back there were these two barns, and we walked into the first barn, and it was like beer hoarders.
I was
in there.
It had to be like going to a toy store for you. Like,
The thing is, there was this. The first thing I saw was there was this like kettle sitting on the floor, copper kettle, and it looked like it was about the right size, for when we hadn't purchased a brew house yet. And I was like, "What's that, Lothar?" And he goes, "That's just the old mash tun from the Weinstefan Pilot Brewery."
That sounds like it would be important.
I was like, "Holy crap!" And so, for anybody that doesn't know what Weinstefan is, it's the oldest brewery in the world.
Really?
It was founded in 1040. So,
and there was their kettle.
There was the one from their pilot brewery that they hit a couple years before. They had still been brewing their Dunkel on. And
did you buy it?
And we bought it.
You bought it. Very nice.
We use it every day.
Really?
So what you can gather from like me talking about decoction, it's a time intensive process. So we had to make our brew house a little more efficient. Okay. So when we brew, most days we brew 2 turns, and we use that kettle. We actually it was cut in half actually.
Oh no.
So we had it welded back together.
Okay.
And we use it every day.
That's amazing.
To receive the wort from the lauter tun on the first turn as we're doing decoctions for the second turn.
That's amazing.
Wait, you're using a kettle from 1040?
No, it's from 1905. I wish it was from 1040.
1905 is still pretty good.
1905, yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I want you to either confirm or deny something that we've heard a number of times.
Okay.
Because you guys do a lot of open fermentation.
Yes.
Because you make lambic style beer.
No, we do all open fermentation.
All open fermentation.
Every single beer that we brew is open fermented.
Okay.
But
yes,
it also counts. The lambic style beer would technically be.
But is that
open.
That's kind of is that wild fermentation for the lambic style?
That is spontaneous fermentation. Yeah.
Because we've talked. First of all, let's go back for a minute. And the reason I said lambic style and didn't say that Dovetail brews a lambic is because you legally cannot call it a lambic, right? We
wouldn't even
try.
even if we could legally call it lambic, we wouldn't call it lambic.
What's the difference between?
So lambic can only be made in the Senne Valley of Belgium, which is the valley of the Senne River, and which runs, say, southwest of Brussels. And lambic is a beer that is mashed in a special way. Okay. And then it is the wort is separated. It's boiled with aged hops, old, very old, kind of cheesy hops, for a long time, and then it is pumped over into a coolship.
Okay.
And these coolships are usually in the attic area, of the old breweries.
Yeah.
And the lambic is left to cool overnight.
Okay.
And as it cools, the microbes, the natural yeasts and other things that are in the air around the brewery that night come in through all the cracks and crevices in the roof, and they settle on the wort, and they begin to ferment the wort, and then that wort is transferred into barrels.
Okay.
And it's left to ferment. Like active fermentation will begin anywhere from 2 days to like 2 weeks later, and it's left to ferment in the barrels anywhere from to, let's say, a winter and a summer, so like 1 year,
okay,
to many years, 2, 3, 4
That's
years.
amazing. Yeah,
and then it has actually aging potential beyond that. Yeah.
Now,
I always say like that lambic occupies this area of beverage kind of between wine and beer.
okay.
It's a very wine-like.
Yeah.
It's a wine-like beer, or it's a beer-like wine, or
One or the other.
And then oftentimes it's taken after at least 6 months, if not maybe 8-9 months, and put on top of fruit.
Oh, wow.
And re-fermented.
It's
So
the reason I asked about that is because we've talked to some other places that do either open fermentation, wild fermentation. They're worried about the yeasts and things getting into other stuff. How do you combat that, or is that something? Am I talking about apples and oranges here?
No. It's definitely a worry.
Okay.
But what we do is we separate out first areas. So we do, like I said, we do open fermentation for everything. So our normal stuff goes into open fermenters.
Okay.
But in those fermenters we add yeast.
Oh, okay.
So we add yeast that we either are repitching or we get from a lab. Open fermentation is safe from microbes because yeast protects its own source of food.
Yeah.
So yeast creates alcohol and CO2.
Okay.
And CO2 is heavier than air.
Okay.
There's always a blanket of CO2 on top of fermenting beer. It's even pushing out.
Okay.
But it's not like we have that in an open area. We have that in a separate area. And we use different hoses.
Okay.
And different fittings and everything. We don't cross the streams. And where we do the spontaneous fermentation, it's actually up here in the barrel loft, and it's a completely separate part of the brewery.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on to the final 4 questions, there is something that I noticed on Dovetail's website that I haven't seen anywhere else.
Ooh.
And as a guy who likes to visit as many breweries as possible when I'm on vacation or wherever, normally I'll sit down, and if I'm not familiar with the brewery, I will order a flight. When I was doing my more research on Dovetail, this is what you can expect in the brewery or in the tap room. You'll get classic styles made in the old world way, blah, blah, blah. What you will not find in our tap room is flights. That seems like an outlier. So why can't I get a flight here, Hagen?
This is a very, very good question.
I saved the best for last.
And there are a few reasons that you can't get a flight, but let me tell you first what you can get.
Yes.
So when anyone comes to Dovetail, they can get a taste
Okay.
of anything they want, and get a taste of any beer. Like we will give you. Most people don't go down the whole rail, but we'll do it if you really want to. My opinion is that most people want flights because they want a taste. They just want a taste of as many things. But in our view, if you want to enjoy a beer, if you really want to get to know a beer, you need to have a full beer. And you need to have at least a 0.3 or a 0.2 if it's a Kolsch, right? Okay. You need to have you need to sit with that beer and pay attention to it. And, just like
Cody's going to meditate.
Well, if I may, it's like reading George R.R. Martin's blog instead of reading Game of Thrones.
Right.
It's like looking at somebody's Instagram or Twitter profile instead of reading read the book.
The Cliff Notes versus the real thing.
Okay.
Yeah, like we made this beer. We put a lot of time and thought into this beer, so and we know you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, but a tiny little shot isn't going to do it justice.
Right.
Okay.
But there's another thing too.
Yeah.
Flights drive your bar staff insane.
That's true. They have to write down. They got to read the list. We did flights for a while. Okay.
We can't we decided we didn't want to subject our people to that anymore.
I get that. It does seem, now that you put it that way, it is more work for your bartenders, for the bartenders. Plus I do
on a busy Saturday too.
Oh, I can't.
You're busy Saturday and you got something like, I don't know, maybe I'll which I don't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's bad for the other patrons too.
I do like getting a full pour because if it's one that I end up not liking, there's still a good chance I'm going to finish it, and then I'll try a different one. Or like you said, you could get a little. Usually for like one or two sips, you go, yeah, this is something I want to drink a whole beer.
You do what I call the brewer's flight. Yeah. This is the brewer's flight. Yeah, I'm going to have one. I'm going to have a beer. Yeah. And then I'm going to have maybe I'll have a different one. I'll have another.
I'll have another one.
No, then I'll have another beer.
As we said earlier, I don't drink the little baby beers. Right. I like the big man beers.
Kinder beer.
The Kinder beer. No Kinder beers, Cody. Well, it's time to move to our final four, Hagen. These are the same questions we ask every brewer.
Oh, boy.
And
I should have done my homework.
There's no right or wrong answers. There are some answers that we will scoff at. But no, other than that, there are no right or wrong answers. Okay, this is probably going to be an easy question for you because of what you do here at Dovetail. Our first question, the hill you'll die on, a style that maybe outside the doors of Dovetail, people are clamoring for it. They love it, but it's not for you.
Whew. That is a good question. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Huh.
He's like, oh, damn, I should have started swearing earlier.
Yeah. Any of this, I mean, it's, they've killed themselves already, but any of like White Claws and all that shit.
Oh, the hard seltzers.
Hard seltzers.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad.
Yeah, they should. I'm
glad.
They deserve their slow and painful death.
What is it? Why the shade for? I hate hard seltzers. So you're not going to offend me.
Why?
Why are you happy of their demise?
Because I'm not a fan of alcoholic beverages that are simple, just straight up alcohol delivery devices.
Oh, okay.
So the way that and this is true when I was younger. It's true now. The way I view beer or any other beverage is it's a nice thing to drink while you're having a nice conversation.
Yeah.
And if it's a great drink, if it's a really quality beverage that you can really enjoy, like you enjoy it from a sensory aspect too, that just makes it even better.
Okay.
Wait, so should I tell the bartender to cancel my order of Malort shots?
Cody drives an actual branded White Claw van, just hoping that they will sponsor him. And I'm like, but we don't talk about seltzers on this podcast. We talk about beer.
I actually, for the record, also hate seltzers. They taste like aluminum flavored vodka.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's the worst. The worst idea. But
I know. I cringe when my daughter comes home and I go, oh, what would you like me to have? Because thankfully, her boyfriend loves beers. So he and I bonded over that. But she goes, oh, maybe you pick me up some High Noons or something. I'm like, only because I love you. But you're making a huge mistake.
I'm going to get you a nice dry Pinot Grigio.
There you go. Here's number 2. A beer that you brewed, and it might have been a hit. You might have loved it. The customers might have loved it. But for whatever reason, you're not going to brew it again.
A beer that we brewed, that we put out, was a good beer that we will never brew again, is the Spelt Brewing.
What is a Spelt Brewing?
A Spelt Brewing is for us, it was the beer that showed why nobody brews with spelt anymore.
Sounds like it's spelt disaster.
Hey, Cody, coming out. Cody's Pun Corner, second segment of the night for you. Very nice.
Yeah, but he didn't brand it, so coming from you.
Wow. All right.
Sorry.
My branding doesn't count? All right, fine. That's fine.
When you become a master, when you get a pin or two, you're good.
It's like an earlier version of wheat.
Okay. And people didn't enjoy it?
It was good, you know. Yeah. It was like it was good. It was good for one.
Okay. Oh, okay.
One, but you didn't want to sit down with it.
Is it really strong, or what makes
it just not interesting?
Not interesting. Yeah. This beer, it's not interesting. All right. Your go-to off-the-clock beer could be one of Dovetail's, could be something else.
My off-the-clock beer is usually in the bourbon or rye category.
Okay. A little whiskey to cleanse the palate of a day of brewing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And finally, I've already talked about to you, I don't think I said it, one of your beers and your favorite food pairing with it. Now, I mentioned your Rausch beer. I love that smoky beer with like barbecue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But do you have a different one that maybe you're like, ooh, the Helles goes with this, or the Kolsch goes best with this?
Oh man, the Vienna lager and a nice Hungarian goulash.
Ooh, okay, that sounds good.
It's like right on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Look at that, you made it through the final 4.
Wow,
you did very well.
Right.
Yeah, you passed, just like your master class. You did very well.
Yeah. Do I get a pin?
Cody, do we have a pin?
I have a koozie.
Yeah, we have a koozie. We'll pin it to you.
All right.
We'll get you a koozie.
Yeah, we got to get some pins now. Some Crafty Brewers master pins.
Well, if you want to buy merch, you can go to CraftyBrewersPod.com.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this edition of Crafty Brewers, Tales Behind Craft Beer. Be sure to support your local brewery, because some breweries, they're going through a hard time. So if you want them around, if you want them making beer that you love, you got to support them. You can read our blog, grab some merch, check out episodes, and get in touch with us on our website, CraftyBrewersPod.com. And if you have a brewery you'd like us to visit, or if you are a brewer like Hagen Dost, and you had a fair, it wasn't that much torture, that if you're a brewer, reach out to us. Our email is craftybrewerspod@gmail.com. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to feature your brewing and learn your story. Crafty Brewers Tales Behind Craft Beer is produced by award-winning producer and new segment host, Cody Goff.
That's true. And if you like the show, if you enjoyed this at all, we do it completely for free. We don't get paid. So please text one friend that you think loves science or loves beer or loves both, preferably, because they'll love this episode. Text them a link. Just go to the little share button. It looks like it's a little dot. You know what it is.
I was going to say, what are the people new to the internet?
I don't know who is listening.
Okay.
Yet, but I will. Understand. Anyway, tell your friends, please, about the show.
And thanks again to Hagen Dost from Dovetail Brewery. Thank you for being here. It was an honor. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It really, this was a really fun talk.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, Cody. Yep.
Well, I'm Brian Noonan, and that's Cody Goff. Cody, any last words?
I was just going to say cheers. Can we get another just amazing clink right there?
Another clink?
Uh-oh. Not with him. I got an empty
Yeah,
glass.
you can't clink an empty. Well, thankfully you've brought some beer.
Better open another one.
The emergency pour. I gotta have some.
There we go.
Clink.